I've got a couple of descriptions to read to you. These are descriptions of Christ. It's kind of fun. Anyway, this is the first one is an account that his disciples wrote when they went up to the Mount of Transfiguration. They saw Jesus turn into or become as Lord. And what they described was this: his appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. Later on, the Apostle John in Revelations writes this: I turned around to see a voice that was speaking to me, and when I turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands. And among the lampstands was someone like the Son of Man, dressed in a robe reaching down to his feet, with a golden sash around his chest. The hair on his head was white like wool, white as snow. His eyes were like blazing fire. His feet were like burnt bronze glowing in a furnace, and his voice was like the sound of rushing waters. In his right hand he held 7 stars, and coming out of his mouth was a sharp double-edged sword. His face was like sun shining in all its brilliance. That's really cool. Here's this account. Now the same day, 2 of them, this is right after he died and rose again, a couple of his disciples were going to a little town called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about what had happened. And as they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they are kept from recognizing him. And then the story goes on. And they talk Jesus into joining them for dinner. So they go into a little restaurant, and this is what happens. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, he gave thanks, and broke it, and began to give it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him. And he disappeared from their sight. You know, that's I don't know why that's so fun. Jesus is messing with them. It's the coolest thing that, you know, God messes with our theology, if you will, on what we believe God is and what we believe Jesus is. He messes with us and gets us outside of our comfort zone. But when we are talking about him, he's always there in our presence. And sometimes you see Jesus, you may not recognize him, but you see something that he does that you've seen him do before. Then you can actually see and recognize that Jesus was there. Sometimes we get to see him in all his brilliance, and it's no doubt. There's no doubt who he is, because you fall down as dead and worship him like his best friend John did in Revelations. Jesus messes with us, but he always shows up. He is the Son of God. He is the very exact nature of God. When we worship Jesus, we worship God. When we worship Jesus, the Holy Spirit lifts us up. And we get to see him as he is. When we're walking around in our daily lives, he shows up among us. Sometimes we see him, sometimes we don't. So I pray God blesses you today. I pray you see Jesus in what you're doing. That you worship him in your work. That you get to worship him with your play and your talking together and discussing things at home. That Jesus is there and you get to see him and know that he's there. Because Jesus is there. He said he'll never leave us or forsake us. So God bless you. Have a great day.